In the quiet town of Crestwood, where crime was almost unheard of, a 17-year-old girl vanished on a stormy night. Her phone was found shattered near the railway tracks, but she was gone. What no one knew was that beneath the floorboards of a lonely house, a twisted man was keeping a secret cellar, filled with photographs, journals, and the girl he believed was his daughter, returned from the grave. This is the chilling story of obsession, abduction, and survival whispers in the cellar. Crestwood was the kind of town people drove through, not to. A handful of shops, a school, a church, and the old diner on Main Street. Life moved slowly, comfortably, almost boringly. Crime was rare. The most scandalous thing in the past decade had been a stolen tractor. But that Friday night would change everything. Rain fell in heavy sheets, flooding the sidewalks. Inside Ruby's diner, the lights glowed warm, casting a yellow haze against the storm. Emily Carter, 17, wiped down the counter with mechanical rhythm. She had been working evenings for months to save money for college. Everyone who knew her said the same. Emily had plans, a future. Long shift, Ho asked Janice, her co-worker, slipping on her coat. Emily smiled faintly. Yeah, just glad it's over. Mom made soup tonight. She untied her apron, stuffed it under the counter, and grabbed her backpack. The bell above the diner door jingled as she stepped into the storm. The streets were mostly deserted. Thunder rolled like distant drums. Emily adjusted her hood and quickened her pace, phone buzzing in her pocket. It was a text from her mom, "Don't be late, Em." "Soup's still warm." Emily typed back, "On my way," smiling softly at the thought of home. But as she neared the railway tracks, her smile faltered. Parked on the roadside was a black van, its windows fog, headlights off. The low hum of its engine pulsed faintly beneath the sound of rain. Her heart skipped. Emily crossed the street, trying to convince herself it was nothing, just some driver waiting out the storm. But then she heard it. Footsteps slow. Behind her. She spun around, rain blurring her vision. For a split second, she thought she saw a figure, then a hand clamped over her mouth. Her phone slipped from her grasp, crashing into the mud. The screen cracked. Her muffled scream was drowned by thunder. Within seconds, Emily Carter vanished into the storm. By morning, joggers found her phone near the tracks, waterlogged and broken. The police filed the report as a possible runaway. But at the station, her mother's voice cracked as she begged the officers. Emily wouldn't run away. Someone took her. The officers exchanged wary looks. In Crestwood, that kind of thing didn't happen. Until now, and just like that, the whispers began. Emily woke with a start, her chest heaving, lungs burning as though she had been underwater. Her vision swam in darkness. For a few seconds she thought she might still be dreaming. But the cold bite of rope around her wrists told her this was real. Her hands were bound tightly behind her. Skin rubbed raw from the coarse fibers. Her ankles were strapped to the legs of a wooden chair. She pulled against the restraints, but they didn't budge. The more she struggled, the deeper the rope cut into her skin. The air was damp, thick with the smell of mildew, rust, and old earth. She shivered as a trickle of cold water dripped somewhere nearby, its steady plink echoing like a clock in the silence. Emily swallowed hard, her voice breaking as she whispered into the dark. "Hello, please, is someone there?" That's when she heard it. Breathing, deep, controlled. Not hers. Her pulse quickened. She wasn't alone. A voice came from the shadows, soft and deliberate, almost tender. "Don't be afraid, Emily. You're safe now." Emily froze. The voice was calm, but it slid across her skin like ice. Who are you?" she stammered. "Why am I here?" The sound of slow footsteps circled her, rubber soles pressing softly against the stone floor. The unseen man inhaled sharply, as though savoring the moment. "You don't need to be scared," he said again, voice dropping into something almost fatherly. "I've been waiting for you. For years." A click echoed and a faint light flickered on overhead. A bare bulb swayed gently, casting a weak glow across the cellar. Emily blinked rapidly, her eyes adjusting. What she saw made her stomach lurch. The cellar was bigger than she expected, carved out of stone and lined with old shelves. Rusted tools lay scattered in the corners. Chains dangled from hooks in the ceiling, and directly across from her, on a wooden table, lay stacks of photographs. Her photographs. Emily's breath caught. She leaned forward, straining against the ropes to get a better look. There she was at school, laughing with her friends. There she was at the diner, balancing plates on a busy shift. Another of her walking home, earbuds in, backpack slung over one shoulder. Each photo was labeled in careful handwriting. March 12, blue sweater, smiled at cashier. April 4, took the long route, looked tired. May 2, laughed with friends. So beautiful. Emily's throat tightened. These weren't random snapshots. Someone had been following her, watching her, documenting her every move. She turned her head slowly, heart hammering. A man finally stepped into the dim light. He was tall, with graying hair and eyes that seemed almost kind. Too kind for the horror of what he had done. His face was calm, almost gentle, but his expression was hollow, like someone living inside a memory. Emily's voice cracked as she begged, "Please, please let me go. I won't tell anyone. I promise." The man tilted his head, studying her as though she were something fragile. Then he smiled faintly. "You don't understand yet," he whispered. "But you will. You've come back to me, just like I always knew you would." The tears blurred Emily's vision. "I don't know you. Please, you've made a mistake." His voice softened, but his words chilled her. "No mistake, you're mine. You always were. I lost you once, but fate gave you back to me." Emily's blood ran cold. She shook her head violently, struggling against the ropes until her wrists bled. "No. You're wrong. Please let me go." But the man simply stepped closer, crouching until his face was inches from hers. His breath was warm against her cheek. His eyes searched hers like he was looking for recognition. "You'll see, sweetheart," he murmured. "Soon you'll remember. And when you do, we'll be together forever." Emily turned her face away, tears falling freely. She had never felt so powerless, so small. In that damp, suffocating cellar, with the photographs of her life pinned like trophies, she realized the truth. This man hadn't just kidnapped her. He believed she belonged to him. Detective Marcus Hale leaned back in his chair at the Crestwood Police Department, tapping his pen against the evidence bag, holding Emily Carter's shattered phone. Around him, officers shuffled papers, sipping stale coffee, and discussing minor cases. But Hale's mind was locked on Emily. Something was off. He had worked too many missing person cases to fall for the runaway excuse. Runaways didn't leave their phones behind, especially not with texts to their mothers about coming home. This wasn't rebellion. This was abduction. He started where Emily's trail ended, the diner. Janice, the co-worker, wrung her hands as Hale asked questions. "She left right after her shift," Janice said nervously. "She was fine. She even said she was excited for dinner at home." Hale nodded. "Did she seem worried? Nervous? Mention anything unusual lately?" Janice hesitated. "Actually, yes. A week ago, she said she felt like someone was following her. We all laughed it off, thought she was exaggerating." The Hale scribbled in his notebook, noted. Next stop, the security footage. Grainy cameras outside the diner caught the storm that night. Hale watched hours of nothing, rain slapping pavement, empty streets, until he saw it. A black van. Parked across from the diner, engine running, lights off. The driver leaned forward in the seat, watching, waiting. Hale froze the frame, leaning closer. The plate was scratched deliberately. That wasn't an accident. He played the footage again, slower this time. As Emily walked out, hood up, backpack slung, the van didn't move. The driver didn't look away. Hale could feel the weight of that stare through the screen. This wasn't random. This was fixation. Over the next 48 hours, Hale pieced together reports. Students remembered a black van parked near the school a few times. A cashier mentioned a quiet man who bought duct tape and rope, always in cash. A neighbor recalled seeing headlights by the railway tracks on stormy nights. Each piece was small, Alone, they meant nothing. Together, they painted a chilling picture. Someone had been watching Emily Carter for months. The name surfaced almost by accident. A receipt traced to a local hardware store showed purchases of rope, chains, and a generator. The customer paid cash, but the clerk remembered him, a man in his 40s, quiet, polite, with pale eyes that never seemed to blink. His name, George Miller. On paper, George was ordinary. A handyman, lived alone on the outskirts of Crestwood, no criminal record. Neighbors described him as helpful, though a little strange. But Hale had learned long ago the monsters rarely looked like monsters. He dug deeper. George's history revealed tragedy. 10 years earlier, George had lost his only daughter in a car crash. The grief consumed him. Friends recalled how he stopped smiling, stopped talking, stopped living. And in that silence, something twisted. With a warrant, Hale and his team arrived at George's property late one evening. The house was small, plain, almost too neat. Nothing about it screamed danger. Until Hale noticed the garage. Boards were stacked oddly at the back, covering something. When the officers pulled them away, a trapdoor revealed itself. The smell hit first, mold, earth, metal, and something heavier. Hale drew his weapon and descended the creaking ladder into darkness. The cellar was a shrine. Photographs of Emily covered the walls, pinned with nails. Journals lay open on the table, scribbled with frantic words. She has returned. My little girl is back. Fate brought her to me again. And then Hale saw her. Emily, bound to a chair, pale, trembling, her wrists raw from rope. Tears streaked her face as her wide eyes locked onto his. But George was there too. He stepped out from the shadows, a knife in his hand, voice shaking with devotion. You can't take her, he growled. She's mine. She's my daughter. I lost her once, but fate gave her back. She belongs to me. His eyes burned with madness, but his tone was heartbreakingly gentle, as though he truly believed his delusion. Hale raised his weapon, heart pounding. George, put the knife down. She's not your daughter. She's Emily Carter. She has a family waiting for her. George's hand trembled. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, No, you don't understand. She is my family. The storm raged above, thunder shaking the ground as the standoff stretched into unbearable silence. Emily sobbed softly, her voice breaking. Please help me. George flinched at the sound, knife wavering. His gaze snapped between Emily and Hale, his face torn between love and fury. She doesn't know yet, George cried. But she will. She'll remember. And when she does, no one will take her from me again. He lunged. The gunshot cracked through the cellar like lightning. George staggered, knife slipping from his hand. For a heartbeat, his eyes softened, as if he finally saw reality. Then he collapsed lifeless against the stone floor. Emily screamed as the knife clattered inches from her foot. Hale rushed forward, cutting her ropes. She collapsed into his arms, trembling violently. Her wrists were swollen, skin rubbed raw, but she was alive. You're safe now, Hale whispered, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. As they climbed the ladder into the stormy night, Emily clung to him, her voice weak. He said I belonged to him, she whispered. He said he was going to keep me here forever. The town of Crestwood breathed again when Emily returned. Neighbors cheered. Newspapers called her rescue a miracle. But beneath the celebration was unease. Parents locked doors earlier. Strangers were eyed with suspicion. The Miller house stood empty, its cellar sealed, a silent tomb of obsession. But sometimes, when the wind howled through Crestwood and storms rattled the windows, locals swore they could still hear it. The faint echo of a man's voice in the dark, whispering for the daughter he could never let go. Emily Carter returned home alive, but Crestwood was never the same again. Behind the locked doors of an abandoned house, a cellar remains, a silent monument to one man's madness and the girl who escaped it. Parents hold their children closer, neighbors trust each other less. And on stormy nights, some swear they still hear faint whispers from beneath the ground. This was not just a crime. It was a reminder that sometimes The greatest danger hides in the people we least suspect.